Okay, so if everybody's here, it's 6 o'clock. So I will call the meeting to order for the Paradise Recreation and Park District Board meeting. Will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Do we have a flag somewhere? Does someone have one on their background?
Yes. There we go.
There it
is. That up?
All right.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and we will have a roll call, Madam Clerk.
Chairperson Mary Belfay.
Aye.
Vice Chair Steve Rodowitz.
Here.
Secretary Robert Anderson.
Here.
Director Julie Van Rokel.
Here.
And Director Alma Grehan.
Here.
All are present.
Thank you. Well, everybody's here. Welcome. And we have some guests. I have on my list David Zink from Paradise Arts Theater and Cultural Hub, Ryan Lester from the Nature Conservancy, Jessica Melton from PG&E Representative, Arlinda Black with the Paradise Apprentice Swim Team, and Holly Platson, a CPA. Are there any more guests, Colleen?
Let's see. I'm not seeing Holly. Oh, there she is. You have Mr. John Stonebreaker.
Okay. Hi, John.
And Mr. Rick Wood from CSDA.
Great.
And you have Jesse Mercer, who's one of our staff members, you know.
Great. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Glad you're all here on this rainy, cold winter day. The first thing that we're going to have is a special presentation from David Zink. He is with what we call PATCH, which is the Paradise Arts Theater and Cultural Hub. And he is spearheading the organization of a possible community center building that will incorporate about 7 or 8 nonprofit organizations and possibly Paradise Recreation and Park District. And he's going to give you a little history of where we started and where we are. So David, please take it away.
You bet. Hello, everybody. David Leon Zink here, Norton Buffalo Hall Foundation, also a member of Regenerating Paradise, and I've been working together with other organizations, Paradise Arts Theater and Culture Hub. Just a quick show of hands, who has not heard about Paradise Arts Theater and Culture Hub? If you're hearing about it for the first time, raise your hand. Okay, seems like we're all familiar with it. Good. I've prepared a brief slideshow that can introduce you to what we're all up to. So I'm just going to dive right in and start talking. I'll go for, if I can confirm the time, Dan, as long as 10 minutes and then some Q&A. Is that correct?
Yeah, that'd be fantastic, David.
Okay.
And I know that you're very mindful of people's time, so I think there likely will be some questions, so make sure we have some time for that.
Will do. Okay, so I'm setting my timer now for 10 minutes. We're already going. So the Paradise Arts Theater and Culture Hub, PATCH. The name doesn't really signify anything other than a need for a shorthand to refer to what we're up to right now. We'll probably end up with a different name when everything is said and done. But for now, this is just a handy acronym to basically, so that everybody knows what we're talking about. Back in, the process that we've been going through since November has been facilitated by Regenerating Paradise. This is a group that came together after the campfire. Over the months, we realized that there was a need for a layer of helpers in our community that could help weave together some of the things that were happening, so we didn't have a lot of redundant efforts, so that we had more efficiency in our recovery post-campfire. So our motto is weaving the social fabric that regenerates us. And so for the last several months, we've been weaving together with the PATCH participants. The idea was birthed prior to the long-term community planning recovery plan process. Back in January of 2019, Don Criswell and Bill Hartley from the Gold Nugget Museum invited me out to a beer, and they pitched me on the idea of joining forces on a campus where we would rebuild together and use our respective audience base to drive more foot traffic toward the other. And so folks that came to a Gold Nugget Museum event would come by and they'd see that there's something going on at Norton Buffalo Hall, a new concert, and vice versa. When we entered into the long-term community recovery planning process, a group of stakeholders on arts and culture were brought together, convened by the UDA leaders. And Judy Clemens from Theater on the Ridge and Kelly Connor, they were both part of the conversation. And as we dove in, we began to come up with ideas for how we might partner together. We began to discuss ideas about having an arts district, a variety of other things. But the traction was gained and the UDA folks paid attention. We came up with a lot of great ideas. You'll remember in that process, we came up with 5 areas. The community came up with 5 areas that we wanted to concentrate on: making Paradise safer, making sure it was welcoming to folks in terms of housing, what they could return to, building a strong economy here locally, making Paradise better, and making Paradise greener. Well, the Gold Nugget Museum Norton Buffalo Hall project, which if you look at the better tree, the middle leaf is Gold Nugget Museum and Buffalo Norton Hall. They reversed the name there. But that was conceived of as one of the things that would make our town better. And you'll recall that we developed priorities during that process, Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. When we listed out the better projects, Gold Nugget Museum, if you look at the lower right, Gold Nugget Museum and Norton Buffalo Hall were still central to the idea of being one of those projects that could be partner-led, that could make our community a better place to live in. And so here, you see this page. Again, all of these are lifted from the long-term community recovery planning document. You're asked to provide basically the vision and phases of development of the idea moving forward, so we could communicate to the idea, to the community, what would make this thing go moving forward based on what we knew at that point. So we have the process in the middle. Over on the right, you saw our early cost estimates. When we talk about return on investment, one of the things that we've learned is that when communities invest in arts and culture, they tend to find multiples of return. The return on investment is very strong for those kinds of things. And so we wanted to emphasize that. We got community feedback. Some of you may have participated in the process. And so you'll remember walking through the gymnasium at the Paradise Community Church, where there were easels set up all around the interior of the gymnasium, each with a project on it. And all the participants had stickies that they could use to cast their vote on what they thought about the project. And in the April 18th and May 22nd convenings, we had overwhelming support. There was an online survey. There was more concern expressed in the online survey, but we think that what was going on there was that folks didn't have a chance to interact with the person standing next to the board so that they could wrap their heads around what it was we were talking about. And if you look below, and again, all this is in the long-term community recovery plan, which you can find online, there's lots of very positive feedback that we received on the project. So it was a big boost from the community. The conversation grew from there to include not only Gold Nugget Museum, Norton Buffalo Hall, but Theater on the Ridge, Center for Spiritual Living Paradise, Paradise Community Center, which now is the Paradise Senior Center, or was the Paradise Senior Center, and the Paradise Arts Center. We know we've got the support of the town of Paradise and by extension, Butte County. So Regenerating Paradise has been weaving us all together. Our process started with a memo of understanding. Essentially, every participant, 7 organizations, promised they wouldn't kiss around between December 1st and March 15th. That we would meet every couple of weeks and that we would have a focused exploration of what we're talking about. We conducted a resource inventory after that so we could surface what we have to work with. And there are a variety of exercises we did after that. This is the MOU. It's a no harm, no foul MOU. We just mean that your lips are mine for the next few months. We looked at different ways of describing needs and resources. And you'll see this list here. Essentially, the focus is on how can we best serve the community given the resources that we have. And so here again are the participants. We broke our survey, our resource inventory survey, which is a 34-question survey, into 6 different categories: the transition to the future, core values and objectives, organizational needs, resources, potential partners, and vision building. Surfaced a lot of great material here. What came up in looking at the vision and mission statements is that all of the participant organizations are focused on community. That is the priority. You can see the faces of some of those. This is a screenshot from one of our several Zoom calls over the last few months. When we got to the end of the survey process, it was clear that we had all done a lot of interesting self-discovery. We'd found connections of interest. We'd caught a vision together, and we were very interested in moving forward with the conversation to explore further how we could work together. We went through a speed dating process. It was the first time many of these organizations had a chance to meet face-to-face and discover more about each other. And we found out what was super about each other in the process. And out of that speed dating and more conversation that ensued, we identified 5 central questions that we wanted to answer. In the last few weeks, we've been trying to live into these questions. The first being, who holds it? What's really the holding model for any property that we're talking about? Who manages it? What sort of governance model would make sense for this sort of project? How would it work? What would be a sensible operational model? That would include how does it make money? How does it pay the taxes and the bills? And how is it run in terms of upkeep of the facility, et cetera? What sort of space is needed? We're talking about square footage. We're talking about overlapping use of facilities. We're talking about how many buildings does that suggest we need? What can be done with the surrounding space? What sort of acreage would that indicate? And then last, what sorts of location possibilities are we talking about? And so now we're at this point where we're wondering whether we want to get engaged. There's a proposal on the table, but some of us are saying, are you serious? Do you know what you're talking about? It's a very exciting moment for us. And we're continuing to live into those last 5 questions. We are now toward, I think next Monday is March 15th. And we've decided that we're going to spend a month to work on some things. First, I'll write up a recap of the process and the findings that were surfaced in the course of that process, and I'll relay that back to all of the organizations. We will hopefully, beginning March 15th, issue a new memo of understanding with a structured process over a 3-month period with goals, milestones that we want to achieve in that period. And we're going to continue to work, it looks like, with the Regenerating Paradise team to plan that process, structure it, make sure we can get to the goals that we've established. We want to schedule some field trips to look around town at some locations that also may make sense. But right now, we're looking primarily at 475, 479 Pearson Road, which is the new location for the Gold Nugget Museum. They've got catty corner to that, the old location of the Gold Nugget Museum. There is across the street from that, the current location of Paradise Community Guilds, which owns 3.78 acres there at 511 Pearson. And between those 3 campuses, we've got 8.78 acres. There's even some additional acreage to the side there from the Memorial Park going toward the school. That may be acreage that we could use. So there's an interesting campus there, but there are other locations around town that we may want to look at. So we need to have field trips to look at those places. And there's an eagerness, there's an enthusiasm for among all of the participants in this conversation to do something meaningful now. We're coming to the end, hopefully, of our COVID restrictions, or maybe they'll be more modest when we come to the summer. We hope to start planning some activities at Memorial Park, which is where the old Gold Nugget Museum was located, that may involve Theater on the Ridge, Norton Buffalo Hall Foundation, perhaps some efforts by Paradise Art Center, etc. So I've gone a little bit past 10 minutes, but this is the question we're living into right now. How about we get engaged? What do you say? That's the overview. Should we move to some questions? Anything that you'd like me to hit, Dan, that I didn't hit already?
A question for you, David.
Yeah. Albert.
When you got to the point when you're talking about should we get engaged, you inferred that there's a proposal on the table. Can you tell us what that proposal on the table is at this point in time?
Right. So where we are in the relationship is we're all looking at each other with keen romantic interest and wondering whether we can really make this thing work. But what we don't know are the particulars of that. And so the particulars would be, let's hammer out what sort of involvement, for instance, PRPD could have alongside 6 other nonprofit organizations. And we've looked at some models and are continuing to look at some models where that has worked. So we don't feel like we need to reinvent the wheel. We feel like we need to look for lookalikes and cousins that have done something similar that could maybe guide us in putting this thing together. We have identified the Conejo Recreation and Park District, which is down in Thousand Oaks. They've got land that's owned by the town, which the Park District manages. And the major occupant of the building is basically the arts community. So they consider that their home. So there's a model there. There may be some other models that we'll look at. We're looking at what sort of governance that might suggest. And so are we talking about launching a new 501c3? We need to do a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats analysis of whether that makes sense or there's something else that would make sense. Mark Thorpe has reached out to a organization that helps for-profit organizations put together business plans. He's discovered that they can't help us in the nonprofits. So we're going to reach out to the North Valley Community Foundation to see if we can get some guidance on how we might put together a business plan, whether they have any suggestions for how we might operate this kind of a model of an all-in experience. Those are the primary things we want to hammer out before we actually officially get engaged. But I think the next step, if we're going to launch a 501c3, we should do that soon. Today, I had a conversation with 3Core. Mary was part of that conversation. 3Core is essentially it's an economic development district that works with Butte, Glenn, and Tehama counties. They have lots of resources in helping pull together government funding, federal and state funding. Also, I think they have relationships in the business community that can help with development at the economic level. And they're keenly interested in what Patch is up to right now. And today offered their help in getting everything figured out. So we've got partners out there that want to support us. Does that answer your question, Al?
No, thank you very much.
Anything else, Dan? Oh, Steve.
Quick question. Buffalo Norton, doesn't that lose some of the cachet?
They
Say
got it
again.
backwards. They did get it backwards when it went.
They got it backwards, yeah.
Okay.
That loses, yeah, Norton Buffalo. You're familiar with Norton Buffalo, Steve?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Extremely.
Yeah. Did you know we had a Norton Buffalo Hall prior to the campfire?
Oh, yes.
Okay, good.
One other one. Paradise is pretty much a denuded community in terms of greenery. Have we considered like taking on partners with Paradise Garden Club? While they're not like associated with the arts directly, you might get some pushback from the garden club. Gardening and plants are a part of the overall presentation of the town, and then they can do it in a very artistic manner as they're doing right now. Have you considered contacting them or the UC Master Gardener program?
Well, it happens that Ward and Cheryl Habriel are representing the Paradise Community Center, formerly Paradise Senior Center, in our conversation. I'm sure they would love to talk with us about what the Garden Club could do with beautifying a campus.
That dovetails well.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Steve. That's a great suggestion. Dan?
Steve, I know one of the items that came up was that the idea of just the campus or facilities, whatever we have, needs to really have some beauty to it, that the grounds, make a statement that they're pleasant places to go and just be there and hang out. Park-like setting, I think, came up, obviously, probably from us. But, I think that had some appeal with the group there, not just a utilitarian 200, seat building, but just that it have, some real gravity to the building that would draw people in just from driving by. So.
Thanks for making that comment, Dan. In fact, that's been a very strong theme in the early part of our conversation with Patch. We don't want to build a warehouse. We want to build something that inspires our community for generations to come. So if we do it, let's do it right. And let's make sure it's done sustainably with materials that reflect the moment that we're in as a culture and dealing with climate issues, representing what a wildland urban interface community should do in its building in order to lead the way. So.
Yep. All right. Are there any other questions for Mr. Zink?
I just wanted to make a comment, Madam Chair, but just that, David, I think you've done a really great job on getting the groups together. Regenerate Paradise and the staff there have been really good facilitators and helping us hone some ideas. This is a very short window in which this activity went, and I think it was just to see feasibility of what we wanted, what we may want to do next. And I think it was very promising, and there may even be some really quick turnaround benefits because we had some conversations to do some programming and collaboration on property we already own. So a kind of a virtual patch even before there's a facility. So, I had some really fruitful conversations and look forward to the next steps from my standpoint.
And I'd just like to say, Dan, I want to thank you for all of the ideas for our campus that you've brought forward, the climbing wall, the zip line, the adrenaline and arts concept. We love that. We love that. So, and, I would mention, I mentioned the footprint that has had the most attention so far, the Ridge Transmission, 475, 479 Pearson, the Mallon Road address, the Memorial Park across the street, 511 Pearson going back to 5704 Chapel. That connects with the Seventh-day Adventist Church campus. And the other side of that is Nunnally Road, which just 100 yards down the street then is the Paradise Performing Arts Center. So these things can be connected by a trail very easily. There's lots of potential, I think, for use of the area.
And to dovetail on that, the museum property has this beautiful flat place right next to the building that would make a beautiful covered canopy for the ice rink in the winter, so we could use it year round or use it all winter and not be shut down with the rain.
Yeah.
Thank you, David, very much for that presentation. Are there any other questions? Nope. Okay. And I ditto Dan on everything he said about how this has come together and how efficient it has done and how efficient it has been run, and the organizations just weaving together to help the community as a whole. So it's a very exciting project to be on.
Really is. And we did, by the way, inform the town of Paradise. We met with Katie Simmons and Colette Curtis and just told them what we're up to. They've got their nose to the grindstone on infrastructure right now. We're actually way ahead of them in terms of town development. Our sense is we can lead them, but we've got their full support. So, all right.
All right. Thank you very much, David.
Thanks, everybody. I'm taking off.
Okay. See you later.
Have a good evening.
Thank you, David.
Bye-bye.
All right. We have a lot of guests with us tonight. So if the board concurs, I would like to suggest that we move old business item 7.1, new business item 8.1, 8.2, and 8.4 to be after the public comment, and then the guests that are here can go ahead and do their, we can review those items on those sections if the board concurs. Does that make sense?
Concur.
A lot of thumbs up. Okay, so is there public comment?
Yes, Madam Chair, I received a public comment via the email from Mr. John Stonebreaker today, just before the deadline of 1 o'clock, and I can read that into record if you so desire. You also have him in the room.
Okay, yes, please. If you would like to read it, that'd be fine.
All right. It begins as, I need to send this in writing in case I get disconnected from the board meeting exactly when the public comment opens, as it happened last month. The members of the Magalia Community Park Board would like to meet with however many members of the PRPD board want to meet with us, preferably at our facility so that we can see so that you can see the progress we've made. We would like to become better acquainted and talk to the PRPD's successful partnerships with other organizations and what sort of model could work for us. It was revelatory to observe last week's liaison meeting and how the district treated the town as a peer. We are not looking for more Zoom calls with staff since we do not feel that they have been productive. After the January 29th call, where we tried to address collaborative events at our facility, someone sent Jeff Daly to make an employment offer to our disc golf commissioner. PRPD would have taken a cut of 4 lessons at our facility without any percentage coming to us. We still do not know how it came about that a contract was presented to someone with no authority to sign on behalf of our organization. Until that is clarified, the majority of our board will not support any further collaboration with PRPD. We would like to meet with you in person and straighten things out. And that is from John Stonebreaker, Magalia Community Park.
All right, thank you very much.
Sure.
Any other public comment? Okay, hearing none, I would like to move to item 7.1, the task agreement and acceptance of grant for the Nature Conservancy. And I believe Ryan Lester is, there he is. Okay, Ryan.
Actually, I'll give a little introduction, Madam Chair, first.
Okay.
So this is starts on page 47 of the board packet. We have a report that kind of goes through the past actions with the Nature Conservancy. As the board knows, they've been a really important partner for us the last couple of years. And we have a current operating agreement, cooperative agreement with them. And this is the First Amendment. They're coming with some funds that will provide $100,000 to expand our capacity to conduct some investigation in the properties we may be interested in. It's a welcome shot in the arm that helps our capacity and expertise on it. I did have some materials and conversations with our attorney on this today. And, some items on the agreement he had some comments on, but also I think one kind of a fundamental thing that we would need to work on the agreement is there's a lot of reference in there about a position. And I think in the evolution of our discussion that makes a lot of sense that the scope would reflect potentially an independent contractor, not necessarily an employee. So that's someone that we could hire that would help us with those tasks, not be an employee, work on an as-needed basis, and kind of ramp up or ramp down depending on what our needs are. And that seems to make the most sense, I think, as far as the item goes. So the idea is that we would have an authorization request for the board to pursue that with those changes and make it mutually agreeable to both parties after that review. Ryan's here to give, I think, a little more flavor about the actual, the guts of the deal and some of the information and intent behind it. And, very much welcome their hard work, and you know, it's not a trivial amount of funding that they're bringing to our organization potentially. Ryan, do you want to share some information?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks everyone for having me again. I think Dan's largely covered it. We had originally thought that maybe the funds could be used by PRPD to hire an employee, but we understand that that poses its own challenges. And so, in order to make it as flexible as possible on PRPD's end, we've been going back and forth over the language that Dan just mentioned that would enable PRPD to use the funds to hire an independent contractor, or if you all change your mind, an employee. But the flexibility is there, so it's really, in the end, it's up to you guys to decide what works best for you. Because either way, for us, the end product should still be the same. Using the funds to, as Dan said, investigate potential acquisitions, use funds to potentially use for if properties are identified for acquisition or easement or whatever real estate engagement is required. Those funds could be used for appraisals or phase one investigations, those sorts of things. So it's really, I think the theme here is we're trying to make this as flexible for you guys as possible, and so that you can deploy the funds on an as needed basis. We will be able to. We have the funds in hand, so we can get them to you as soon as possible. We likely will retain a certain percentage until the end of the, a small percentage, probably 10 or 15%. Keep that until the terms of have been fulfilled, and otherwise. Really, like I said, it's up to you guys to figure out what's the best way for you to use those funds in a real estate scenario.
Any questions or discussion from the board?
I have a couple of questions. If I understand both of you gentlemen correctly, then there's still some minor modifications to be done to the paperwork that we have before us this evening before this will be finalized. Is that correct?
Yeah, some minor items in the agreement, and I think, and from our standpoint too, I think it's not part of the agreement, but we did include the job description. In reality, that would be transformed into a scope of work, likely for an independent contractor. So, and that's not part of the agreement per se, but I just wanted to kind of make that clear up front here.
Right, and then the other question I had, and maybe this is something staff can answer for me, is if I understand one of the attachments from the Nature Conservancy relative to this grant, it talks about not only the terms, but the reporting that we as the grantee would have to be required to do, and the due dates and so forth. With that in mind, staff can probably be better prepared to answer this question. Dan, can you identify specifically if we agree to this agreement and receive the grant and we become the grantee? Can you identify specifically which district personnel would be involved with this reporting and tracking?
Yeah, I think predominantly it will be me doing a lot of the checking of the boxes and how are we on track with the scope of work. Certainly, I imagine Christy will be participating in that, and Catherine as well.
So essentially, those three individuals, right?
Correct. Okay. Colleen may have a role as well, but I think that's going to be covering 3/4 of the work on it.
Add something to that. I would just
sure, Chris.
like to say that in accepting the grant, it's really generous opportunity from the Nature Conservancy and appreciate their faith in us. I think in terms of modeling, the best processes from from this contractor, if that's the way we go. It would be a natural part of the project to document what works, what doesn't work, what we're accomplishing, you know, and the speed at which we're accomplishing things, and impediments along the way and how those are resolved, because that'll just make it easier for us to develop a process and systematically approach these acquisitions in the future better prepared, essentially.
That's a really good point, Christy. Yeah, you know, if we do have, you know, either pathway we take, whether that's the employee that we hire in-house or an independent contractor, then the scope would very much match the scope of work that we have with the Nature Conservancy. So there would be kind of this subcontractor relationship where they would provide, you know, the accomplishments and some of those milestones as well. So that's an important point to consider. And you know, I want to just pause a second and just note that TNC has been a fantastic partner for us on many different levels. And I think this is just demonstration of kind of a strong partnership and their faith in the district carrying this work out.
Appreciate those comments. Thank you, everyone.
Any more discussion?
Yeah, looking over the position description, this is a highly specialized job. It might take months to find the right candidate. We have a known pool of potential candidates, whether it's, you know, going through the board of realtors or other options to where we can put somebody, whether it's an independent contractor or employee, in that position in a relatively quick period?
That's a great question, Steve, because we had some forewarning from TNC on this. We've been exploring some options. So we do have a pool of candidates, or a backup plan might be a little mini constellation of people that can serve certain needs. And so that actually may be a viable model as well, that some folks have expertise in certain areas, but not everything. And so that may be a little bit more challenging from our side to kind of manage that. But we are taking a careful look at it. And we may have some good candidates that may be interested. So I think it could be a relatively quicker fashion than I might have thought a few months ago.
Okay, so do we have a motion to follow the recommendation of approval of the second task agreement?
I move to approve the second task agreement with the Nature Conservancy.
Second.
Okay. Madam Chair, or Madam Clerk, would you do roll call vote, please?
Certainly. Chairperson Mary Belle Fay,
Aye.
Vice Chair Steve Rodowitz,
Aye.
Secretary Robert Anderson,
Aye.
Director Julie Van Rokel,
Aye.
and Director Alma Grehan.
Based on the understanding as it was presented with pending amendments, aye.
Noted.
All right, motion's carried. Awesome. It's exciting. Thank you, Ryan, for your time.
Thank you, Ryan.
We'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Take care.
Okay, you too.
Bye-bye.
All right, next up, we have new business 8.1, which is the usage of the Terry Ash Rec Center for a public community resource center during public safety power shutoff events. And Jessica Melton is here from PG&E. And Dan, did you want to give an introduction here, or?
I will. Yes, thank you. Glad to see you, Jessica, here tonight. So PG&E has been doing some exploration of facilities that can provide indoor venue for their planned power shutoffs, a community resource center. So a place that people can come and get batteries. I hope she didn't, it looks like she fell off her desk there. So, So just gives a place that we had several of these outside last couple of years, but they've been really important for people to have a place to collect information. They had some battery handouts and water and that type of thing that really, I think, were a nice service for the community. PG&E approached us some time ago about utilizing Terry Ash Rec Center as a location for one of those centers. They did an evaluation. We got some good information. They got a kind of independent third party that looked at our ADA compliance, which our building looked to be in pretty good shape, and looked for options on how to hook up a power generator. So that would allow us to maintain operations, them to provide that if the agreement is passed, and also them provide that service to the community out of this center. We did have our attorney take a look at some of the provisions there. I think it boils down to a few things. Let me just pull up some notes real quick here. So this is from Jeff Carter. He mentioned a couple of items. Board members may know that we are actually, the Terry Ash Rec Center, we have a long-term agreement with the county for improvements, but the underlying property is Butte County. So most things, if it's recreation related, it doesn't require a written notice. But anything that is sort of could fall under a sublease, in this case, because it's not a pure recreation activity, we have consulted with them to see about their process and would want any follow-up be contingent on that determination. But Jeff did identify a couple of areas here that the agreement should note Paradise Recreation Park District and not the county on the agreement. Section 6, and this is of our agreement with the county, provides that the use of the property is limited to recreation and park purposes. Otherwise, we cannot assign or sublet the property without county consent. We do have the county, one of the county directors is approaching the manager to see about the process that they want to use for that and request. Don't really foresee an issue on that aspect, but we just want to make sure we're doing our due diligence. A couple of minor changes on the agreement, such as and we need to work with Jessica on this, but on the Exhibit A, revising that area to show the exclusive use. There's been an indication that PG&E intends to be flexible, that if we have a reservation, for example, that they may be able to shift to another room and provide those services, but that may be good to have built into the lease. And, you know, one thing that Jeff raised, I think it's a good point, was the idea of the daily license fee is $800 per day, but that because it's over a 10-year period, that we should consider inflation as we move over that kind of time period, and that it be tied into perhaps the annual consumer price index, or CPI. And then Director McGreehan had asked a question about whether the applicant has verified with the town that it's intended temporary land use is permissible. I suspect it fits within our land use of the facility. It's nothing out of the ordinary as far as a recreation program or rental of our facility. So and there's no impacts to additional parking or traffic. It's all going to be occupied within our existing spaces. So I would ask or recommend that we have revised the recommendation. And that's basically that we go with this way, that we add the provision that we work with legal counsel and PG&E to address these concerns mutually agreeable, and that the board can direct district manager to work on those items. If we're so inclined, we could have that set up to where if it's agreeable to management and legal counsel to move forward, or alternatively, if the board chooses, this item can come back once those are addressed, and we can have that review under old business with the board. Jessica's here to shed some light on the program. And then also, I don't know if you have she hasn't had a chance, unfortunately, to get much leeway on some of the comments that we just sent her today. So hopefully she may have some questions for us on that. Jessica?
No, Dan, you did a really good job of explaining the program. PG&E wishes to partner with the Paradise Parks and Recreation District to provide the community with this community resource center. We really appreciate, the opportunity to partner with you, and we do understand that this is a critical resource during our public safety power shop events. So we would do any electrical upgrades needed, install the ATS and the generator to supply power when the power is shut off. I did run by the few items that you had with my project manager, and we are agreeable to using different portions of the property should the main room be already rented out. And then we do agree also to the increased annual adjustment with the consumer price index. So we can move forward with those adjustments to the agreement. And yeah, so we look forward to this, and we thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you, Jessica. That clears up a number of things.
So, so this would happen if you, like PG&E gives us a 3-day notice or a 24-hour notice that because of high winds and dry weather, we're going to turn off the power in all or part of the town. And so that would, except it would still be on at Terry Ash Center. And then residents would have the opportunity to go there for being cooled down or warmed up or food or water or whatever they wouldn't have. So if the power's off for several days, would we set up cots? Do we bring in food from restaurants? How do we supply showers? I mean, how does that work if they're I guess I'm not sure how the center would work exactly.
So we're only open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. And those are the hours that it's staffed. And then we also provide 24-hour security just to make sure the property is secure and the assets are secure. So we don't intend for customers to spend the night, but we do hand out blankets if it's cold, or we'll do bags of ice. They can keep their perishables cold, vice versa. But it's not intended to be an overnight kind of situation. If you do have showers there and you want to offer them to folks, that would be great too. But we do hand out bottled water, we give out snacks, and the generator is powering the entire facility. So even if we are occupying that one room, the rest of the center will also have electricity.
Okay.
Mary, I will point out that, I was just going to point out that as a cooling center, so the county has designated us, the town as well, as a cooling center. That's for temporary respite from the heat, for example. So, that it's not intended as overnight accommodations, but that people could get rehydrated, they could cool off, get out of the temperature, that type of thing. And this definitely fulfills that mission, because if without it and without a generator, we're in the same boat as every other building in town. So this does allow us to, I think, provide a little bit more full service during those events where the power is off.
Right. And is this model being used somewhere else and it's successful now, or Jessica?
Yes, we have, I think, close to 100 agreements throughout the service territory. Okay. Indoor and outdoor. I believe we used 35 in the major event that we had last year, indoor, along with probably about 70 outdoor. We do have COVID restrictions. We follow the county guidelines. We take temperatures at the door. We hand out masks if customers don't have them. Hand sanitizer. We practice social distancing. We have partitions between tables, things of that nature.
So I'm hearing that you provide all the people that make this happen.
Yep. It comes as a big care package. When we get
package.
We will give you a call. It might be on the weekend. Don't know what's happening here. What is this doing? Okay. And then, we'll give the word to our folks, and they'll swoop in just with we call it the CRC kit, and they'll set everything up, and we fully staff it. And we've gotten a lot of good feedback from customers. How many staff members do you expect for an event? It depends on the size of the facility, probably about 3 or 4. I mean, we'll have somebody outside taking temperatures. You'll have a couple people inside sanitizing. You'll always have the security guard on site too.
I have a question for you, Jessica. Did PG&E establish this type of an arrangement somewhere else in our immediate geographic area here on the Paradise Ridge this last year?
Yes, and I can tell you exactly where it is. I have.
Actually, I think one of the outdoor centers was just across the parking lot here at the Paradise Lutheran Church.
Mhm.
Okay.
And these are for planned outages. Is there a scenario where unplanned outage, they still happen, not granted, we're not Texas, but we do get unplanned power outages. Would we be able to access the generator for an unplanned outage?
Yes, that generator is going to be set to a automatic transfer switch. So regardless if PG&E is on site and you lose power at that facility, that generator is going to kick on. And so if we don't have a planned power shut off, but you do lose power in the area, say, a rogue line falls down or things of that nature, and that power goes out, that generator will turn on and you can use that generator for the.
And I mentioned it in the report, but this does fulfill our, business continuity goals, and also with that, those improvements are footed by PG&E. So those are permanent improvements that benefits our facility and our citizens for use of the building.
Mm-hmm. So the indoor community resource centers we have agreements with currently, and that area we have one in Magalia, one in Bangor, one in Chico, Oroville, and Forest Ranch.
Are those other agreements also for 10-year periods?
I don't think I personally signed a handful of these. I believe the Forest Ranch is 5, but I could definitely check and see.
And what's the thought process behind PG&E wanting ours to be 10 years?
We start at 10 and then some of the folks negotiate them down.
I see. And what's been your experience with our staff? Are they amenable to 10 years?
I honestly don't know yet.
Oh, okay. Well, staff, that question is directed to you.
Yeah, I think we would with that provision on the CPI. So I think that makes a sense on that kind of length of agreement. Typically, as you know, Mr. McGrean, our agreements are, for a lot of things, it can be anywhere from annually to 3 years to, I think our longest agreements have probably 50 years. But a 10-year cycle on this seems, I think as we move forward, our grid gets a little more dependable and things go underground, that it actually may not have that much of an impact if it's not utilized. But it certainly has some benefits over the short term for the power and maintaining our business continuity and providing service. We like having our customers and citizens know that if they're coming to the Terry Ash Rec Center when they need assistance.
Well, should the legal counsels for PG&E as well as for our district, when they work together on this, assuming the board gives you that direction tonight, with that in mind, the undergrounding that's underway for utilities on the ridge, maybe there can be some additional language in the agreement that in lieu of the undergrounding in place, that we no longer have to have, I don't know, whatever's necessary relative to the generator. I don't know. Because hopefully there would be no power outages if everything's underground, theoretically.
Keyword theoretically.
Theoretically, yeah. I mean, you never know.
You never know.
Right.
Yeah. Also be important to note that the county OES has the official say of which resource centers they open in their county. And so centers we have agreements with, and when we have a shut off, we kind of show them the areas in which the power is suspected to be shut off, and they pick the resource centers they want to open. And so first could be chosen, it could not be, and if the power goes off, we still get to use the generator.
Good point.
Because we get folks, we got the word, the power is going to be shut off, but you haven't called us to use, the community center yet. And we're like, oh well, it's not up to us. I mean, we do want to use everybody's get the community center for everybody, but we don't have that final say on who gets opened. It is the emergency services in your area.
Jessica, do you know whether or not PG has already forecasted far enough ahead to know when they're going to have some power outages in this region?
No, we don't, but we do know that, we didn't get as much wet weather. I know it might be raining right now. You have a little bit of snow, but the snowpack is, I think, about 66% what it should be. And Orville Dam, and then what do we have up here? There, the water levels that we have are low, and they're predicting another drought that we haven't seen in 5 years. So we are predicting that we might have a sooner and longer wildfire season. Like we saw this year, we had public safety power shop events into January, which we've never had before.
Good point. So would you agree, along with our staff, that time is of the essence? That we need to get moving on this quickly, or should we wait till we see the final rewritten agreement and we have concurrence from the county for us to proceed?
Time is always of the essence. We're looking at March now. We do have some long lead time materials that we order, and after we get those, it's about a month for install. So we might be looking about mid-May for this, early June, considering it's March right now.
Mm-hmm.
Director McGrean, you're kind of anticipating, I think, why it was we wanted to put it on this agenda, especially with the agreeableness that Jessica mentioned as far as those terms, that I think we could craft it with Mr. Carter's help, mutually agreeable document, and then certainly we need a contingent upon Butte County written approval. But
right.
it does, we're looking at that clock and time of year and the time
right.
for construction. So we just wanted to expedite it. That's why I thought tonight.
Well, I totally understand. That's why I'm thinking, and you've expressed it well, and thank you everyone for your input. If the board concurs with authorizing everyone to proceed ahead with those pending changes, then you can come back at the next month's meeting and we can just ratify the final agreement after the fact. If the board concurs with that.
Concur.
I would concur.
Well, with that in mind,
I'd like some clarification on the site.
Okay.
Now, the red section, that's where the public gets the park on Exhibit A.
If you're looking at Exhibit A, that is the parking area, and that's non-exclusive. So that's where customers we're just going to kind of show them that that's where the general parking is.
Okay.
That's
and yellow, that's our community room. That's where the public is going to be.
That's the community room based on like photographs that I've seen. I kind of guessed thought the main room was, so that yellow box is meant to encompass the main room. If we want to see about using different rooms, we can totally expand that to encompass those as well.
That was it. Actually, one of our comments, Director Anderson, was to refine that map a little bit because it doesn't quite match up with some of the facilities. So we worked with PG&E on revising that map.
Right, and then the blue is where we're going to park the generator for fire season, and the green would be the staging area where they're going to put portable restrooms and hand washing stations.
Okay, I concur.
Okay,
Right.
Madam Chair, based on all the concurrence I hear from my fellow board members, I move that the board authorize staff to proceed ahead to finalize the agreement document and secure county concurrence with the final document brought back to the board for future ratification.
Great. Do we have a second?
I second that.
I heard one before you, Julie. Who was that?
That was me.
Okay, Steve, sorry.
Madam Clerk, will you roll call vote, please?
Chairperson Mary Belfay,
Aye.
Vice Chair Steve Rodowitz,
Aye.
Secretary Robert Anderson,
Aye.
Director Julie Van Rokel,
Aye.
and Director Elmer Greenhan.
Aye. Thank you, Jessica and staff. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank you,
for your
Jessica.
time. Have a
Thank you,
good rest of
Jessica.
your evening. All right, and I believe we have our Linda Black from Paradise Piranha Swim Team in the room, and she's item 8.2, which is page 75 of our agenda of our packet. There she is. I see your name. Are you there, Linda? There she is. I can't hear you.
How's that? Better?
Very good.
Perfect.
Okay, good. Sorry about that. So thank you for having me. Just kind of, I guess, give you an update of what happened last year with our swim team. We ended up having 33 swimmers last year, which was, I guess, pretty amazing since most of those children weren't even in the town limits, living in the town limits, and they were still coming to swim with us every day. So that was pretty amazing. We still, unfortunately, did not even break even financially, which was tough, but we're really just, luckily, I've always kept a little nest egg. So we could have that, in this situation, we could have a little leeway. And so unfortunately, that's probably what's going to happen again this year. We unfortunately have lost our swim coach, Devin, after she's been there for like 6 years now. So he got married and he and his wife were both swim team coaches. And so they both quit now because they want to move on with life, which I understand. But it's a really hard time for us to have lost our swim coach in our situation. We're also unfortunately losing board members because with people not coming back to Paradise, more people are still moving away. We had 9 board members. We have 7 now, and we're probably going to be down to 5 by this summer. It's hard to get parents to volunteer to be on the board. So I'm not sure, how this is going to go for our future at this point, but we're really, I don't even have a swimmer on the team and I'm still the board. So I don't plan to quit at this point, obviously. But that's just it too. A lot of our board members have children that have aged out and they're not swimming anymore. And so we've had to revise our bylaws because part of the bylaws was you had to have a child on the swim team to be on the board. So that's what, we're still hoping to, have a summer. We've got 13 kids that have replied that they will be swimming this summer. So I'm hoping we get more. I'm hoping we get a swim coach. We've only had one person reply to our ad, which has been unfortunate. But we do have, I don't know if you guys know the Hassick family, but Bruce and his son Andrew has been on our swim team and everything. So when he was younger, and so he has shown interest. So cross your fingers, folks, that tomorrow at our meeting, we have a new swim coach. So otherwise, I'm not sure what we'll do at this point. So I just kind of want to be really honest and upfront with you guys that we don't know what our future is until we get a swim coach for this summer. So I'm really hoping Andrew can meet, our requirements and that he can teach during our time frames that we have posted on the calendar for you folks. We posted the same calendar basically this year that we did last year, the 3 days a week during May, the first week of June, and then 5 days for June and July. They aren't going to try to host any kind of special events in the evenings except for a welcome barbecue if possible, and then a end of year party. So, and then of course with COVID, we're not sure if we're even going to have swim meets. So, at other facilities, we did not plan one just because we can't afford to host one right now. And plus COVID, we're just not sure. So it just wasn't valid for us to try to do that at this point. So that's where we stand right now. And so like I said, we're really hoping we get a coach. so that we will be able to swim in your facility this summer. And I saw that you guys got your pool filled back up. Thank goodness. I heard rumor that the pool was drained, and I was like, no. So I'm glad to see that that's been filled back up and fixed. And I will keep you guys updated on our situation with the swim coach at this point, because I don't know what we're going to do otherwise. I know I hate this. I sound so doom and gloom. I always want to be really positive. That's why I haven't quit the team. I'm really trying hard to keep our team together and keep our families together. So, but it is just making it harder because people cannot, it's hard for them to commute to Paradise from where they're living now. And people aren't moving back up as soon as they thought they would. And I even haven't. I'm still living in Oroville. Been a real process to get our property even up to where we need to go to start building. So I know this year we're going to do it again if we get a coach, but don't know what our future is going to hold at this point with so many kids aging out and the new swimmers aren't coming in, and then our parents leaving. It's been really tough. So, but we're the ones that are still here, we're hanging in there and we're working hard.
Well, we appreciate the report, Arlinda, and you've got a couple past Paradise Piranhas right in front of you. I coached that. Yeah, I coached.
I know Julie's kids, and so I know her. But
it's a hard time, and people are having a hard time committing, and they're having a hard time, like you said, if they haven't moved back up yet, do they want to commute every day? And I'm sure that the staff and the board probably would agree for the most part that we'll work with you in whatever capacity that we can do to help you. I did repost a couple times on my Facebook page that you were looking for a coach, so.
We posted everywhere. And the only reason why I got the bite for Andrew is because of Trish Caldwell. She's like, here's 2 people I know that might be interested. And so thankfully, when I emailed Andrew's dad, he said he'd passed the information on, and then Andrew emailed me and said that he was interested, and I was just like, yay. So, and that's it, we're losing all of our big kids too that help with the littles, for group 1. So, it's just, we're really struggling, and we just can't afford to hire. That was the nice thing about having the older kids, is that they were doing it for work experience, like on their resumes for college and things like that, doing the volunteer work. But we don't have the big kids anymore. So it's going to be hard to teach the littles too, if we have a big group, but don't have, people that can get in the pool with them. So it's just kind of tough all the way around. But we'll do what we need to do and get it done. If us parents have to be there part of the time, we'll be there.
Hey there, Arlinda. Scott Amick, Recreation Supervisor. Hello, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I think you might have worked on my daughter. Did you used to be
yes, I did. Oh, yes, her shoulders.
I thought your name was familiar. Yep.
Yeah, I'm Matt Scott. I've been in conversation with Jim Parrott of Chico Aqua Jets. And I think there's a very interesting situation developing in that they need more pool, and that they have been able to host some events and a couple of other things that they come with a little bit heavier pocket. They have flown in a coach that has capacity right now. If we can start to get into conversation about potentially partnering, utilizing their coaching experience, we roll in some of our, I'd like to balance the doom and gloom with, hey, there's some opportunity down the hill. I'd love to take that conversation offline.
Oh, that would be great. I will definitely, if they have my email address and everything, if you want to get it from somebody there at the PRPD, and I would appreciate that. That would be wonderful.
Cool.
Get in touch. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. And tell your daughter I said hello.
Okay, I will. She really likes it.
Tell her to do her stretches, for crying out loud.
Yeah. Thank you, folks. I appreciate your time, and I will keep in touch with you guys. And if you guys hear of anything that can help our team, I am more than willing to take that. So, but at this point, we're going to swim. We're doing it.
That's great.
Thank you for your dedication, Arlinda.
Pardon me?
Keep on swimming.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm probably a little bit biased, but I think that the Paradise Piranhas organization is probably one of the best recreation opportunities on the Ridge for kids and families. I'm definitely biased, but it needs to continue to be a part of the community. It needs to keep going.
Yeah, I agree. And we got up to 106 swimmers. I mean, we were
Right.
so strong before the fire. And that fire just, I mean, devastated us all. I mean, it just wiped out our team, unfortunately. But I mean, we were so competitive too. I mean, Devin had brought us up so high, you know, on the spectrum that it was just amazing. And our kids were just so enthusiastic and just, I mean, they wanted to come to swim practice, you know, and so I miss that. I really do. And I'm hoping we can get that back.
We'll tap into Scott. Tap into Scott and Chico Aqua Jets. And I was just going to suggest, could you glean any of their older kids to come up and coach? And I'm sure you've posted it with NBA. Oh, it's NVALs, right? Not NBAL.
Right, it's NVAL.
It was NBAL when I was
right.
Yeah, we posted it with Sierra Nevada Swimming. We did hard. I mean, we did all. I mean, we posted it everywhere we could think of to post. We posted on our Facebook page. So, you know, I mean, so we hit everything every place that we could think of, even if it, you know, we didn't think it would make it, at least to put it everywhere we could. I mean, and so now the next thing too is that we're going to try to get flyers. We really want to try to get flyers into the schools in the next, you know, few weeks, because we're going to start in May. So we're going to open registration up in April. So we really, I'm hoping that Paradise Unified School District will work with us on that. We've had a problem in the past where they haven't posted information that we forwarded them. So I'm really hoping that they will put that out for us, because that would be so helpful to get it out to our local kids, even though they're not in town. I mean, we've even had kids carpool, you know, if they live in Chico, they all meet somewhere and carpool together. So, or the families do. So I'm hoping that will happen again this year.
You might be able to get some help from Scott regarding that. He might have a contact like through the Peach distribution thing and all that. So share all that with Scott, and thank you, Scott, for your ray of sunshine in this little.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't want to see the piranhas disappear. That would be just like, we'd have to have a memorial service or something.
I know. Well, and that's why I'm not quitting, because I mean, like I said, I don't have a swimmer on the team. There's a couple of us that our kids have aged out, and so I mean, we're just staying on the board because we don't want it to go away, you know. So
Arlinda, here, let me give you a little bit more good news to wrap this up. There's a voucher program that North Valley Community Foundation has that can pay for both equipment and registration up to $400. I can connect you for that. I've got a long list of Chico State Rec students that need community hours that can be hosted through swimming. And we've got the Aqua Jets that want to rent our pool time. I've got your back.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
You guys got to connect.
That's gonna be my new best friend.
Well said, Scott. Arlinda, I just want to say thank you for your dedication. And, you know, if you hit some of these obstacles, feel free that you could contact our staff, Scott and Jeff, and we'll see if we can come up with some solutions, because people are coming to us with some ideas and resources that weren't available 2 years ago. And so there might be some things we can help you with in some small way. So thank you for your dedication to keep them swimming.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to hearing from you, Scott, so we can start working on some positive attitude. And yeah, definitely. We need some positive reinforcement on our board. I try to keep everybody positive, but it's so hard.
All right, Arlinda. Well,
thank you.
Thank you for your dedication and your love of the sport.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, folks, and I will talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Okay, and now we're going to skip. Is Holly still here? We're going to skip to item 8.4, the district audit. And Holly and I imagine Catherine might be speaking on that. Did you want to give any kind of introduction, Dan, or Catherine, do you want to give any kind of introduction?
I could just provide just a real quick one. You know, we have run through that, the the audit with our finance committee. Had a very good detailed discussion about it. And I think we'd like to just kick it off to Holly right now, who's been waiting patiently tonight and can walk us through her report, unless Catherine wants to provide any introductory remarks.
Okay. I just wanted to go through the audit report, and that is that I completed the audit for the district for the year ended June 30 of 2020. You received an unmodified opinion, which is good. You did have 2 findings, which are also known as management comments, and you had 9 journal entries, which is not bad, but it's a way to improve in the future. Also to note is that your audit does include management discussion and analysis. It included this last year for the first time, and it's again in the audit report this year. And it is a required component of special districts, although not all special districts do that. I'm just going to go over some really quick highlights of the audit. And that is for the year ended June 30 of 2020, there was an increase in cash as well as the tax revenue. And that's due to the backfill of property taxes and also some FEMA money. And during the year, you also had grant revenues, which were new for the year, which made an overall increase in your net position for the year ended June 30. And on expenses, they were pretty much the same. You did have a decrease in salaries, and that was mostly due to the COVID epidemic. And other items to note is on page 33, the subsequent events. Technically, I completed my audit back on January 6th, and items between June 30 and January 6th included the PG&E claim that you had and the amount that was received. Also, the district entered into a grant agreement on acquiring some land. And I also put a note disclosure regarding COVID into the audit. And those are the subsequent events. Just briefly on the findings, you had 2 findings. One was over payroll transactions. There were 3, I believe, out of the 40 employees that were selected that timesheets didn't match. And then on disbursements, there were 2 items that did not have supporting documentation. But those were pretty simple items for the management comments. So it's just something to be worked on in the future. And then you also have a board report, and the board report just goes over how the audit was done and the journal entries that were made and if there were any other findings. And that's pretty much the summary of the audit. Are there any questions?
A lot shorter summary than last time, which is good news.
Yeah.
Awesome job, Catherine and staff.
Mm-hmm.
Any other?
Unless there are questions, we'd accept that, or we recommend that the audit be accepted as presented.
Yeah, I think the finance committee realized that the trend is looking in the positive with a cleaner report and fewer notes and findings. So it's looking well.
Good, thank you. So do you have a motion to accept the recommendation? I'll make a motion that we accept the recommendation or accept the independent audit as presented.
I second that.
Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Certainly. Chairperson Mary Belke,
Aye.
Vice Chair Steve Roderick,
Aye.
Secretary Robert Anderson.
Aye.
Director Julie Van Rokel,
Aye.
and Director Al McGreehan.
Aye.
Audit is accepted unanimously.
Awesome. Okay, so now we're going to jump back to the consent agenda.
Thank you, Holly.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Holly.
Thanks.
All right, so now we're going to jump back to the consent agenda. Are there any items that?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
is there some reason why we skipped new business item 8.3?
Well,
I think the reason why is we didn't have a guest tonight for that item.
Oh,
that's why we moved the other ones to before the consent agenda, because we had guests on the call. In the
when I
room.
read the staff report on this, it sounds like time is of the essence on this particular item. I don't understand.
We will get back to it.
Oh, all right.
We will go back and follow the agenda to consent agenda, committee reports, the district report, and then the new business.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, so we're back to consent agenda. Consent agenda. Anybody have any comment on the consent agenda? No?
To approve as presented.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Julie won.
Can we just do this?
Madam Clerk, did you get the second?
I did. I gave it to Robert.
I gave it to Robert. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Chairperson Mary Belfay,
Aye.
Vice Chair Steve Roderick,
Aye.
Secretary Robert Anderson,
Aye.
Director Julie Van Rokel,
Aye.
and Director Alma Greeham.
Hi.
Consent agenda carries unanimously.
All right. Okay, committee reports, Finance Committee.
We just
I
did
guess
it.
we just did the Finance Committee report. Personnel Committee. Julie, do you want to just give a quick review?
I'll let you do that.
Okay.
You're doing such a good job at running the rest of the meeting.
We did meet in February and reviewed a development of a new position for a consultant for park development, and Dan can expound on that if he would like. And then in closed session, we just pursuant to the government code, we reviewed the district manager evaluation employment agreement and talked about the process. And Dan's going to report about that in his district report. And then we reviewed a workers' compensation claim. And then we were out of closed session, and then we had a party. No. So Dan, if you want to add anything to that, I think you're going to cover it in your district report. So.
Yeah, I think so. The only thing I was going to add is that review, development, a new position or consultant was really related to our discussion about the TNC grant earlier. So we had a really very useful discussion to help formulate, frankly, our intent to go toward that consultant direction rather than, or excuse me, independent contractor rather than an employee. So it was very, very worthwhile discussion at that meeting for it. And as Mary pointed out, the other items will show up here shortly.
All right, and then the Town of Paradise Liaison Committee. Mr. McGreehan, would you like to report on that?
I don't know, man. We covered so much ground that day. I don't know if I can remember half of it, let alone a third of it. All the board members have received a copy of the agenda that we had for that particular meeting, and I'll just defer to the other board members. If they have any questions on any of those topics, I will attempt to answer it, or possibly Dan or Mary.
My only input, it was basically the town gave us a bullet list of what they're up to, and we gave them a bullet list of what we're up to, and that was kind of the gist of the meeting. It didn't last 2 hours, and it was very interesting because it was the first Zoom meeting that I have been on where 9 out of the 12 blocks were black. So it was it was just interesting, but it was a good update and a good exchange, and everybody was supportive of everybody, of all those things that were on the agenda of what we went over. And Dan, is there anything to add?
No, I think to a large extent, it's just kind of kicking off some conversations. So a lot of these were kind of previews of stuff that's coming. So I think it was healthy that we had a really good exchange of information. The other liaison counterparts with the town, I thought were asked great questions, very interactive with our board. It seemed like a very healthy conversation. So a number of these things are coming up, and it's just like Mary pointed out, it wasn't quite the bullet list, but providing some details about what may be coming around the corner, not very far for both town and us.
It was good.
Also, Dan and Mary, refresh my memory, was it alluded to at the end of that committee meeting when we would come together again? Is it 3 months out or 4 months out, or was that even pointed out?
I thought it was once a quarter. Is it once a quarter?
I know that there were some conversations with the town outside of that meeting that maybe it should be on a quarterly basis, or some of these, especially the items on the list, move forward that we may need. But, actually, Al, I don't recall them specifying a particular follow-up meeting or date.
Yeah,
So.
I didn't either. So anyway, I don't know what to tell the rest of our board, but hopefully we will meet on a more frequent basis, at least 3 times a year, if not more, and keep pace with all these things.
It's a good communication maker because we didn't have that opportunities in the past. So as a committee, so they're reaching out to major organizations to have that kind of communication, which is great. All right, 5.1 district report, which is page 27. Mr. District Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of things right off the bat is this is kind of previewed with our Personnel Committee, but there's a timeline that the Personnel Committee developed for District Manager evaluation, and that's on the first page there. We have attached it, and I think there was a question. I don't know if Catherine's ready to answer. There was a question regarding from one of the board members on one of the finance reports. Catherine, and I don't recall offhand what it was. It was, regarding checks for IT services.
Yeah, so I sent in copies of the bill for Computers Plus. And really what that was we had a new server installed. So not only was it the price of the server, but it was also labor costs as well. We ordered 2 laptops for our newest employees. And then we had a Windows upgrade. So all in all, those 2 invoices, that's what they were for, is the server, the labor, the 2 laptops, and a Windows update.
Thank you, Catherine. So we'll slide over to Mr. Cobb to give us a little update on parks and the pool. If you caught wind of the repair and the draining part, he could give a little bit more on the potential drama that was at the pool. Mark?
Yes. Yep. I'm sorry, everything went funny. There we go. Sorry about that. At the pool. Yes, unfortunately, we during the season, as I stated, and if you read on there, we noticed, luckily we did notice a small crack, and we, when the water was in, of course, it was magnified and it looked like a very large crack. Luckily, when we had to drain the pool, when we got down to it, there was 2 cracks up there. Luckily, they were about a 1/16 of an inch wide. We were able, as you can see in this pictures illustrated there, you can see that we were able to repair them. And then when we pressure washed the pool, we did find 1 smaller crack. That was about 2 foot and about a 1/16 of an inch. We've made those repairs, pool's filled back up, balanced, and ready to be swum in. But one thing we did, unfortunately, now the pool has had a glitch, and so the heater isn't working. But we have that scheduled to be worked on next Tuesday. So hopefully that's nothing big, and we can address it and get that part back up and running. Of course, when summertime comes, that's the last thing we do use, but everyone wants to get into it in early spring, and it's a little chilly. So hopefully we'll get that up and running. And as you see, I'm really hoping that the piranhas do use it. it is a beautiful facility, and I know that we, I don't think a lot of people really do some don't, how much labor and work there is to keep a pool up. 220,000 gallons of water, keeping it balanced, and it is a lot of work. And our staff puts a lot of work into that pool area, and it's actually kept up very nice. And it's a nice pool, and I'm really hoping that they can use it this year. It's a great location. The pool deck and benches, which is aesthetics, but they were weathered over the years. So we replaced all the boards. It looks great. The whole pool deck and that whole area looks great. Paradise Lake, the volunteer group has done an incredible job on that. And I wanted to say on the first one there on the ball fields, I can't wait for those wooden poles are going to be taken down, hopefully here in the near future on the small field, which will allow us to get over there and start working on the scoreboard and score booth. Poles weren't safe to work under, so I sure wasn't going to have our employees working under them. If we're not letting the public under them, I don't think we want our employees under them either. And the large field is ready to go. We've already got, I'm looking up here, I already have 4 reservations. I got a feeling that once restrictions are eased, we're going to be very busy with a lot of baseball. Everybody wants to get out. So the large field looks great. We're looking into renovating the outfield. And I've stated in earlier board meetings, I think that our ballparks up there, when those are all done, is going to be a prime location for all over Butte County to want to play games. We have a beautiful ballpark up there, and with the work that's been done, I think it's going to attract a lot of outside people who want to come up here to play. And let's see, other than that, Billy Park and Aquatic Park are looking great. And other than that, and I just want to say, I can't wait for us to be having one of these meetings, and we're talking about when we're going to build the new shop. I keep waiting to drive up, and all the guys are going to be standing at the front gate yelling Attica. I think they're after 2.5 years, I think a MASH unit. I think I really cannot, and I know we're moving forward on that, and that's why it's a good thing, because trying to run a park district, and especially as large as it is, it's very spread out, and it takes a lot of work to keep what we got going. So we can't wait to have a shop to call home again after 2.5 years, and I think we can't wait. And it's just great that now that seems to be moving in progress, and that's a good thing. I think we're really looking forward to that, and I think we would feel much more at home than working out of 2 sheds and containers. And so I really think it's a big deal for us. We can't wait for it. I know Dan's and Christy have been working on that hard. There's a lot to it, but we just can't wait for it to be when we're actually sitting in a board meeting and saying, okay, we're going to get the shop building. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, we appreciate your
Hey, Mark. I was just going to provide some information to board members. So some time ago, we started to kind of resurrect the conversation we had with the insurance companies, because it just seemed to be stalling out. And so we got our estimate, and the folks that provided the adjustment from the insurance side to get together and start looking at where are we far apart. And so Mark's been working with Missy from the insurance side of things, and they've come to some good progress on that. We're hoping to get a better update from them. There was Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was a $600,000 gap between what our engineer's estimate was and what insurance wanted to provide it.
Yeah, it was substantial. It's not trivial. And there were some fundamental
things that need to be corrected on some of the cost assumptions and just the layout of the building.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're moving forward and hope to see something here soon. So appreciate your patience, Mark. I don't know how to help you on the Attica chant part, though. Thanks for that report. You know, you mentioned baseball. I should mention that we that makes me think Willie Davidson. So Willie has joined our staff some time ago now. And Jeff, I don't know if you want to provide a little bit of an introduction. I know that he's been very much a part of softball and baseball up on the ridge here. And he's been helping us out get some information. I thought it'd be worthwhile to just do a quick introduction, either Jeff and or Willie. Definitely want to hear from you, Willie. So
yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd be happy to do a quick introduction. My video is coming out black and white and grainy, so I don't know. My wife's on a Zoom call right now too, so I think I'm going to turn that off. But anyhow,
no, we can see you. Go back.
We can see you fine, Jeff.
Okay, maybe it's just my machine here. Willie's been working with us in a cooperative way, running softball tournaments for a number of years. And I don't want to get the years wrong, so I'm going to let him say that, but it's been close to 10 years of running softball tournaments at the Morrow Ballpark in a cooperative manner, like I mentioned, where we would co-sponsor it and split the profits, and there would usually be donated to a certain charity each of the tournaments. I'll let him expand on that a little more. Since then, we've hired Willie in the last year or so to help coordinate some of the youth sports. And one of the things I was going to mention, I'll let Willie talk about it, is I have him working on the MLB pitch, hit, and run event, which I've always wanted to do. We've never really had time to do it in the spring with Little League on our fields, and this was a good year to give it a try. It's going to be, last I heard, June 26th. It might be a pretty big event. It's for girls and boys. It's a local contest, and then they can move on to the regional, and then finals at the World Series. So if we get any hotshot baseball players, they might be able to move on. So anyway, without further ado, yeah, Willie, want to say a few things about yourself and what you have going on?
Sure. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
All right, good deal. Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, you know, I've been part of this either through Little League or something for a lot of years. And 15 years ago, we started the nonprofit Ridge Softball Club, actually for one of my friends that had lymphoma cancer. And yeah, so I've been running tournaments for just about 10, 12 years. And yeah, you know, this opportunity that Jeff provided with me here after the campfire, being a survivor and someone who went through it, I was looking for a really good way to start trying to have be some adhesive for the community. And, this has become a great opportunity for me to be able to unite some of these youth programs, to be able to run some sporting events, actually threw some other ideas out there in the activity guide for in the community events. I have more than that, because more than softball tournaments, we did other fundraisers, yard sales, dodgeball tournaments, poker tournaments. So I'm very used to doing fundraisers. And I feel like, not only is there a need for the Recreation Park District, but also for the town. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. I'm going to be helping with the fishing derby. I'm going to try to do what I can to help get some donations and set that up to be very kid friendly. I plan on that pitch, hit, and run contest. That's pretty neat. I've always seen those, on football games or baseball games, but never really seen everyone come to this area. And I played Little League in this town, so not something I've ever seen. So excited about that too. And just would, again, this is going to be part of my healing process. Not only, will I be just putting time and effort, but I'll be putting a lot of passion and town passion into it to do what I can to be a person that can bring some of these community events together. And I was hoping we'd be about this stage last year, but of course, last March, we pretty much shut down everything with the COVID thing. And I look forward to future conversations with each and every one of you. I could ramble on for days about how much I'm excited about being part of this team, but I'm gonna go ahead and say thank you for the invitation to be part of this, and thank you for introducing me to everybody, Dan and Jeff.
Welcome aboard.
Certainly, Willie.
Yeah, welcome aboard.
Thanks, Willie.
You can probably tell, even on Zoom, Willie has some enthusiasm and he cares about his community. He's probably too early to announce who it is, but he mentioned today that he has a $1,000 donation for the fishing derby already. So, you know, he's definitely plugged in the community, and I think probably the reason why he's effective on fundraising, he looks hard to say no to as far as being excited about things. So welcome aboard, Willie.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that. Thank you, Barb.
You know, I thought it'd be good chance. She's been with us now 2 months already, so she's already a seasoned staff member. But Jess, if you could give us an update, especially on some of the really exciting programs with Boys and Girls Club and the Girls on the Run program, I think our board would love to hear that. And other things you got cooking throughout the district, and especially up in Magalia.
Sounds good. Well, thanks again for seeing everybody. Even though we're on a screen, I still enjoy every minute we get. A couple great things. One I just want to start swinging off the bat with is I got my first grant at PRPD. Wrote a grant for $1,500 to do an 8-week snapshot photography program with the Boys and Girls Club. I will get the opportunity to do 8 weeks with each site. So the Magalia site that's at Pine Ridge, the site that's at Prez, I do know it's in transition, so we're still talking about that. But we're hoping that this will be executed and complete by September so that the kids' work gets entered into a rural conference, which then means that a lot more eyes than just us get to see them. And hopefully some of these photography also displayed within the Terry Ash Center. So really highlighting our youth and seeing the world through their eyes with a social and emotional learning component to it, which is prompts that are guided to gain presence, to connect with nature again, and to get outside and get moving. So I'm really, really blessed to come in with another grant and be able to offer this and partner even closer with an agency that I care a lot about, and I'm happy to bridge again with PRPD. The second thing is I am a head coach of Girls on the Run, hence the zip up sweater as I came down the hill and jumped right into the meeting. I have 12 8 to 10-year-old enthusiastic young women that are showing me how to do everything right. They are empowering me, they are motivating me, and they are getting me to run. So I call it a win all the way around. Even amongst the snow and everything going on today, we were just a couple girls short, which is still impressive, and it shows the determination of parents to get their kids involved in things. And it was just a really fun day, and the gym was given us so kindly by Principal Ed, and I just have to give him a shout out for being so incredibly thoughtful to give us a space no matter the weather so that we can keep this consistent and know that the girls know what they're doing on Monday and Wednesdays from 3 to 4:30. A couple other really quick highlights, working with Spring Valley School to do some footprints, which will improve some art integration up at Crane Park. It is on pause just for the moment until Spring Valley is welcoming guests, but that is rolling. And then the second thing is I'm working on some pop-up art activities in Butte Valley, Concow, Spring Valley School, Kentfield Farms, where a group of about 12 to 15 Concow youth spend Monday mornings sharing peace and time together. Trying to get some connections going up in Sterling City, and obviously in Magalia and Paradise as well, and trying to also align with some of the events that we already put on just to bring out some art and some different things like that. And the last thing that I just want to finish with is that there will be a very large new art piece going into Paradise on the Skyway Antique Mall. If you know that wall, you know that wall. You can't miss it coming up the Skyway. So been working heavily with a lot of local artists to try and do even more collaboration and beauty within the town. So that sketch is up, and it will also be shared pretty heavily throughout the town. I have 5 young people from 8 to 18 that will be helping, and I am super excited for that, as well as 7 local artists, one of which actually doesn't live in town but would still like to come back home and contribute. So feeling really great about bringing the community together in another unique way. So thank you all for your opportunities of letting me shine here and giving me space to grow and learn and consistently learn from you. So thank you so much.
Jesse, do you have a
Thank you, Jess.
do you have a Park and Rec email address?
I do. I can put it into the chat.
Okay, well, it's the same as everybody else's, right? First name, last name.
That too.
Is there a dot in the middle?
First initial and last name. First J.
initial.
Mercer.
All right. Because I remember I talked to you about those prayer
It's
flags.
in the, Scott just put it in the chat if you need it.
Thank you. Remember I talked to you about those prayer flags for the art project? Well, I have them, so I'll reach out to you.
Always will put anything to use that you have.
All right.
Anything.
All right. Thank you very much. And we're glad you're here, and sounds like you're making exciting things happen. So you've gone from art to running. That's really interesting. That's stretching, right? That's stretching, right?
I'm growing every day.
Well, truth be known, running is an art.
It is.
It is. I have learned and I respect.
My daughter was.
We'll go to Jeff and then Scott. And I think one thing that's remarkable right now that things we're planning some things in this time of COVID, and it's been challenging. But I think we're really trying to, as things get busy, we're trying to get ready for it. You know, Jeff, we'll go with you, and then Scott as an update. Thank you, Jess.
Okay, so as Mark mentioned, we've already got 3 or 4 rentals at the Moore Road Ballpark. One of those has already started. It's a Paradise Little League juniors team, and they're going to be out there practicing in the afternoons. Also, the Paradise High School girls softball team is going to be out there practicing after school, as their field isn't ready yet at the high school. And another thing that's going to be helpful is when we do get the poles down on the small field, so we can use that field as well, because we have the girls softball team out on the big baseball field with a mound. So it's not perfect, but it's working. Under the programs listed there, hopefully you got to take a look at them. The lake activities class, that's been kind of a fun one. Recreation leader Tyler Woodcox is heading that up. And he's got a small group of children, 8 kids that he meets out at the lake 2 days a week. And they do things like hiking and fishing. And I just got a couple of really good pictures today, so it was too late to get them in the board packet, of them doing some activities. It looks like they're having fun. And it's just nice to have a couple programs going. The Tai Chi I've mentioned in the past. I met with the instructor today, Felix, in my office. And it's a small class. He gets 5 or 6 regulars that come every Saturday to Tai Chi. Interestingly, though, he's got people that come over from Concal, 1 or 2, and then up from Chico to attend his class. So he's pretty well known, and we're trying to get that going. I've got to grow that. I mentioned ballet. We're starting a partnership with Northern California Ballet. The Easter Fun celebration, in lieu of an Easter egg hunt that we didn't think would be appropriate for COVID with a big group of kids running crazy in a field, we decided to do a scavenger hunt. With that, we're going to have the Easter bunny there in her costume. We're going to be handing out treats to the kids, and they're going to go around and participate in a scavenger hunt where they'll find different, I believe it's going to be animals, in trees and whatnot, and they'll have a card where they find those and check them off, and it'll spell a certain message to them when they get all the clues to that. Getting a yoga class started soon with a new instructor. A couple things that weren't on here. Willie, we mentioned, and Dan, thanks for bringing that up. Willie was able to get a $1,000 donation from Miller Glass for the kids fishing day. I've also met with Chris Main at FFF Sports, and they're donating 30 rods and reels, all spooled up with line, for prizes as well. Actually, we're buying those at cost, but it's ridiculously cheap. They're like $6 each. As well as our Butte County Fish and Game Commission grant for $3,000 to purchase fish. So it's coming along. Willie and Lori are helping with that, as well as Scott and myself. We mentioned the pitch, hit, and run event. Tiny Tots. Teacher Lori's excited to get going again. We've got 5 kids registered so far for the April class, so we're hoping that we're going to get a couple more. It's probably borderline right now enough to where we would try to do it, but I think she's kind of feeling like she hopes we can just run it and get it going, because start to build some momentum and get the word out that we are running that class again. So that's kind of exciting. The biggest thing lately, though, has been scheduling the ballpark and getting COVID consent forms signed and procedures in place for people to go out and have some practices out there. And that's about it for me right now.
Thank you, Jeff. Good report. Scott, let's go.
Good evening, everyone. Reading from, we can read. I'll just give you the highlights. 2 40-foot shipping containers have been donated. It looks like they are valued at about $10,000 each. So that's pretty exciting. They're going to be on their way here via Golden West Homes is going to pay for their transport. It's exciting. It's going to be able to put kayaks at Paradise Lake, so serving the Magalia community, as well as the Ridge Riders program here. We have adorable knee-high bicycles and as many as you can imagine headed this way. So we're looking forward to donating those to the community. There will be an adorable opportunity to watch them riding around at Billy Park. That's coming up, looking to kick off in May, so just as school gets out. We have a really close relationship with the adapted community at Chico State, as well as with Ability First and Butte County Office of Education. To that end, Taylor Guy went out to Paradise Lake so that we could ensure that our hikes, the hikes that we're doing through the Ridge Hiking Association, can be labeled as inclusive. We find that if I'm going to be a part of healing trauma through nature or outdoor education for all, then we do need to make sure that we're including everyone, including those in chairs and with other physical challenges in our hikes. So benefits for everyone in those. We have some feedback that's going to be headed towards Mark and Dan, some very lightweight things that we can do to ensure that we can gather more participants for those. There's Figure 13, Taylor hanging out with Carrie Vanderbaum, who's also going to help us get some adapted bicycles as well. Super exciting stuff. Mary, I think you can also speak to the Ridge Hiking Association, one of our programs that's continuing to gather steam, especially because of Explore Butte County's push to get folks out on trails through their Hike Butte County program. We went up to Lassen to the Komyamini Visitor Center and we hiked up into the hills. It could not have been a more beautiful experience, appropriately challenging in that it was snowshoeing. And we look forward to making that a perennial event because it was just everything that recreation could and should be. Mary, you want to speak on that?
Yes, I do, because we got how to check for an earthquake. If there was earthquakes, we learned about how to keep your toes warm. And I mean, we got an education component as well. And I swear from the visitor center to Forest Lake, is that what
Forest Lake? Mm-hmm.
Forest Lake. It took us about 2 hours, and I swear we climbed about 3,000 feet, but I know we didn't, but it seemed like we did because the way down was really fast. But the best part about that was on the way down, I personally had to just stop and look at the peacefulness that was out there and Mount Lassen and the snow and the trees. And we kind of hurried back down the hill, but I said, I'm just going to stop and just breathe all this in because it was so beautiful. And it was just like, it was a good take it all in and get refreshed and then keep going. But it was a good job and you all did a wonderful job and educated us as well.
Thank you, Mary. And for clarification, we learned about avalanche safety.
What did I say?
Earthquake.
Oh, sorry.
Which could cause an avalanche. We've got you. Yeah, Mary, thank you for bringing that up. One of the outcomes of these hikes for the Hiking Association is there's a healing component in there. So we make sure to acknowledge that. We have another one coming up this weekend at Paradise Lake, which may or may not include some snow or some precipitation. So be there if you'd like to do that. Let's see, the Healing Trauma Through Nature program has been smashingly successful, especially in the time of COVID. You'll see there, Dan, if you wouldn't mind popping up another picture of our socially distanced hikes through Wildwood Park. We are now down with, we've had an experience for 8th grade all the way down through, this is the 3rd grade. Last weekend was the 2nd grade. This upcoming week will be the 1st grade, and the last experience will be for the kindergartners. So we will have served all of Achieve Charter School. And then depending on what tier we're in, we'll give a second experience for the 8th graders through the 5th graders, where they will be coming up here to the Ridge to explore Billy Park and Paradise Lake. So another just fantastic opportunity to work with Achieve Charter School, who's been just nothing but a pleasure to work with. So we look forward to having our neighbors back coming up here pretty soon, so they can teach my daughters when they get to be that age. The traditional ecological knowledge partnership with Ali Meter's Night in the Mechoopda tribe was wonderful. They've got a social emotional learning program, and they have a program where they pass on traditional land management fire practices that's gaining a lot of momentum. So we met and we've talked about how to fold that into the Healing Trauma Through Nature program, and we'll see how that looks as COVID continues to pass us by and we get to open some things up. So it's neat to have her on board, as well as working with us and the Ridgeview Rangers. Last year, we met with Earthbound Skills to talk about their protocol and their program. They do like bow drill fires for 3rd graders. It's the neatest program. It's the program I wish I knew existed when I was that age. So check out Outdoor Education for All for our interview with them, because we have a podcast and a vlog now rolling monthly if you'd like to find out more about what their program does. I think the last thing that I've got is that in the next couple of months, we're going to continue to work with the community resiliency model folks in creating videos on resiliency skills that will serve all of Butte County, and they'll be shot here at the Terry Ash Center. So if you see big green screens set up and it looks like a Hollywood set, it basically is. So,
Scott.
Yes,
Scott, could you please mention what time of day this Saturday the hike is scheduled to take place at Paradise Lake, and how people can, how have you gotten the word out so people can know better about it?
It mainly goes out through social media, in that it's a partnership with Paradise Stronger, and it will start to roll out on our activity guides. You can also go to, and I'll put all this information in the chat box over there. You can also go to ridgehiking.com and to see all of the events for the year. It's from 8:30 a.m. until noon. It's a 4-mile round trip hike. We'll start at the picnic trailhead, and then we'll hike halfway over to the first boat launch. Subsequent rides and hikes will be the full 8 miles. So take them halfway out now, and then later, full pull. Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Is there a link from the PRPD website to the Ridge Hiking Association website?
Oh yeah.
There is.
SEO? Come on, Mary. We gotta get that SEO in there, right? Thank you, Mary. Yeah.
What does SEO mean?
Search engine optimization. You're brilliant, and that was it. Yeah. I'll go ahead and drop all this links in here.
That was a trick question. I knew that.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Scott.
Yep.
Just quick things on outreach. We mentioned Boys and Girls Club. Staff's been working real close with them recently. I had a good field visit with some mountain bike enthusiasts in our area, and also some town of Paradise representatives went out to just up the hill. We started at the lot here, walked up to the Yellowstone Kelly Trail, walked a section near the high school, and that was identified as a town as a potential area for a bike flow course. So we could have some additional, ride up on the gentle grade of the railway grade, and then drop down with a little more challenging route. There is a up to over 90-foot easement on that area, and that bike path only occupies, maybe it's 6 feet. But, so there's plenty of room in there for some options in there. Long term, the vision there is that there could be along that Yellowstone Kelly Trail, you get right up to the top, and then a flow track that would go for 5 miles all the way down. Of course, you'd have to drop back into the regular path to do the crossings and stuff. But I think it's one of those items that, again, brings people up, and it's a resource that is there. It just needs to be developed. So there seems to be some interest in that, and it may be the type of thing that we do a demonstration section after some additional trail work has happened in the future, and keep moving from there. A bunch of planning efforts going on right now. One is the Bureau of Land Management. Their Reading office is conducting a resource conservation plan. The last one was done in the 90s, and so this gives a chance to sort of have some insight into regional needs, and we've been participating in that. A little bit different process, and this is county related, but the Upper Ridge Community Council is working with the county and others to do outreach and do some preliminary planning up in Magalia, and that's going to fold into quite possibly general plan updates and have some implications for funding and fuels reduction and all of that. So it'll be interesting to see what the final product is. They're in the middle of that right now. A couple of other projects, just a volunteer, there's hours. And we've been working with a couple of potentially new groups that may be able to provide some additional resources and help on some of our properties, especially like Kudalink, where we have different layers of assistance. We've had the timber harvest. Cal OES is going to come in. Next layer down is those trees that aren't covered by either programs, fire hazards, fuels on the ground, that type of thing. So we need some additional help out there. And so we're trying to cultivate that with some groups. And we'll see what comes of it. But I think out of some of the conversations with this group, All Hearts and Hands, or with a local Machupta tribe that now has a crew that's working in the area, that we may be able to get some additional help on those resources, along with Chico State and a group, Firestorm, that's a private firm. So there's some things there on its way for you guys' consideration in the future. We'll see how it all plays out. Wow, big report. Lots of good stuff. I know there are a lot of things on the agenda, but I think it's great to hear from our programming staff, especially on just some of the progress they're making right now. And I know as board members, you set big picture, but you need to know what's going on with these things and direction that we're headed. And so I appreciate you guys listening to our enthusiastic staff. Unless there's any questions. Last biggie thing is this week, next couple of weeks, both Christy and I have 3 or 4 proposals due, including the significant one for the state parks project. So that's due later on this week. And it's coming together, the applications for Lake Ridge and Noble. So we've also put in an application for National Park Service on some assistance for mapping and potentially a sign system for us. So it's not a dollar grant, it is assistance, but National Parks, as you know, knows how to do signs and maps. So that would be welcome help for us. Be happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
Yes, Dan, you alluded to Lake Ridge and Noble Parks. Can you update the board this evening and tell us whether or not it's official now that the acquisitions are completed for both those park sites, the additional properties that we are acquiring? Are we now the owners?
Yeah, I'll let Christy jump in on that. She has the up-to-the-minute information.
Yeah, so the Oak Creek property is officially ours. The check has cleared, escrow is closed. We are the proud owners of 2.62 acres of entrance into what will become an amazing, beautiful, probably wild park. We'll see, right? There was a bit of issue with the deed. There was an encumbrance on the deed for the Noble parcel that was not. There was nobody was aware of it during the preliminary title research process, and the owner of the property wasn't aware of it either. So it's been resolved. but it slowed down that process quite a bit. There was quite a bit of paperwork that had to go back and forth between the title company, the owner of the property, and Farmers Insurance, whose office was in Texas during the storm and was shut down for a week. So everything that could have gone wrong went wrong there, but the buyer is still super motivated, very supportive of the district's strategic locational parks concept, and is really excited about that property becoming part of a legacy for the town to enjoy. And so she's just been delightful to work with, honestly, and has been very diligent about pursuing everything she needs to do to get the sale finalized. We did receive the final purchase documents yesterday. So we're just now having to coordinate with the grant agency to align their review of all the documentation, the draft deed, and all the other things that they require. And then they submit to the state controller to cut a check. So we're looking at April 1st. That was way too long of an explanation, but you know, it is what it is.
That's exciting. That's all that hard work's paying off. It's exciting. It's very exciting.
Yeah. Thank you, Christy, for that.
So your district reports, that was it, huh? And then board liaison reports.
That's all.
The board liaison reports, we kind of already reported on that. And then we're gonna finish, we have no closed session. So we'll finish new business item 8.3, which is page 79, which is the permit use for Paradise Lake cross country meets. And Jeff, you have been so patient. Thank you. This is your announcement, right? Did he disappear? Oh, there he is.
There I am. I can add what I know about it. It's more it was more prepared by Dan. We were approached by the Paradise Unified School District superintendent, actually, Tom Taylor, about them holding a couple cross-country events out at the lake. And I think the reason we wanted to get this out is because it may come up before the next board meeting. And kind of the takeaways from the staff report are that we'd waive the event fees for the school district, being that we do have a multi-use agreement with them. When we use the gymnasiums or any school campuses, that's all free. They use our ball fields free of charge. They do pay for our swim pool for the swim team because there's a big price for that. But let's see, they're looking at having 1 or 2 meets for grades 5 through 8 cross country meets at the lake. They're to provide a insurance certificate and a rental agreement. Probably missing some of the specifics, but like I said, Dan's probably got more info on this than I can share.
That's actually covering quite a bit, Jeff, but I can provide, Larry Johnson gave me a call today on the actual meet. Just has a few questions on COVID and how they're arranging for that. Even though some of the meets may have 4 or 5 teams, they're actually restricted to only 2 teams can compete at a time on the course, which is kind of interesting. If you're not running, you're wearing a mask and social distancing. So they have really good COVID protocols in place. I think this idea of we don't have a cost structure set up yet for 5Ks, for example. This is unlike a 5K, this is a regular, scholastic meet. So they don't have fees charged. And I think there's some dividends for us, not only being good partners with the school district, which is, we have a great partnership with them, want to preserve that and support their kids, get them out there at a beautiful venue that will be the envy of all the other cross-country teams that come up here. So there's probably some dividends, not only showing goodwill to the community, but when those families come up here and they may not have seen Paradise Lake before, they may come back up for another day or want to participate in some other events that we have or take a class kayaking at the lake or one of Scott's programs, or Jeff mentioned the, the lake program that we have. So, there's a lot of benefits, I think, on just getting exposure out there and doing a show of goodwill on this. They're looking at, I think, a few meets potentially through the end of the year. They haven't set their calendar. They absolutely want to have their finals at Paradise Lake. So, we're recommending that we authorize that application with a conditional use, and we do have some conditions listed out there. Jeff touched on some of them for meets in 2021. Actually, that should say through the spring season here, basically. But
Dan, I have a
unless
question.
there's questions, yes,
Yeah,
sure.
I had a question. Has that location been utilized by the school district in the past for cross country? I know we just took it over, but have they run there? I know the high school has cross country.
I think they had practices there. I don't know if they actually had a meet there. And I don't know if anyone else, or Jeff, if you have knowledge. Steve, you may have something there.
Yeah, I think it was actually the high school that hosted meets there through the cooperation with PID. I've seen the markings on the trails, and it wasn't just for a 5K. It was for a cross country meet. I have a question. Will this require any course upgrades that we'll have to, do I know there's some exposed rocks, maybe higher than 5 or 6 inches on the trail? Or is that going to have to be addressed, or is that just going to be part of the natural cross-country?
Part of the natural trail out there. Inevitably, our trail is actually in better condition than what we received it in back in June of last year. So there's considerable improvements. Some of the vegetation has been lifted, elevated up, and widened, better sight lines and so forth. And some of the turns have now better gravel, and actually kind of a different kind of gravel on there. It's not the round rock. It has kind of the crushed basalt, which I'm a big fan of. So I think we've done some things out there. I think every time we want to work, part of the initiative here also is, they're in the process that they do meets all the time. So they're going to lay some eyes on that course. And the age group here is actually they don't need your standard cross-country course. They need relatively small distances. So they're looking at kind of a small distance there. We hope to have our staff, especially Jeff, for example, work with the schools and see if there are upgrades. What can we do to make this a better course and attract maybe long-term cross-country meets for the high school and on up from there. So I think that's, we're getting some good intel, if you will, on this arrangement, and I think we'll get feedback from them as to how we can do improvements. Good question, Steve.
It would be great. It would be great at some point. I know before pre-fire, our cross country program that you ran, Jeff, was phenomenal and very widely participated in. It'd be great if those two could come together at some point, and all the schools in the community could do that together.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Julie. We've had those out at Billy Park. And maybe we could do like the final meet up there at the lake, or have half the program there and half of it at Billy Park.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the so much of the population center is now up in Magalia.
Up there, right.
So it would be, and we have 2 great places that kids can run now. I mean, that's fantastic. Right. What a good problem to have.
Julie, you set me up really well for this one. Tomorrow we have the National Intercollegiate Cycling Association visiting us and Paradise Lake as well. And I wanted to wait until Jeff and Dan rolled this out to announce that once we have this relationship with PUSD and that we're running track meets, that the way that we seed mountain biking events is if it's already run, it's an event that's ran. Oh, my mother would hate that. then it makes it that much easier to build agreements with mountain biking organizations as well. So Mary, I've contacted our mountain biking crew, giving them the good news that it's likely that we will host a mountain biking event at Paradise Lake as well. So bringing lots of opportunity for recreation to that Magalia crew.
And with that, with the running and the biking, there have been triathlon events there, including kayaking. And so I think that's something that possible a sponsorship in the offing here.
Actually, one of the first ones they did, Steve, I was renting my kayaks from my business to people, and well, why is everybody needed on that date? And it was for that race, so I ended up entering in it. And it was a lot of fun. So it'd be nice to return that back to that area once again. Sorry, Mary.
And Scott, when you do start thinking about the triathlon races, I can get you in touch with the two people that ran that as well. So that event. So we got connections. Wow, that was a full agenda. Is there any board comment?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that the board authorize staff to approve application with conditional use for 1 to possibly 4 cross-country meets at Paradise Lake in 2021.
Great. Do we have a second?
Second.
Julie,
Give Julie one of them. Come on. May we have a roll call vote, please?
certainly. Chairperson Mary Belford,
Aye.
Vice Chair Steve Rodowitz,
Aye.
Secretary Robert Anderson,
Aye.
Director Julie Van Rokel,
Aye.
and Director Al McGreehan.
Aye.
Carries unanimously.
Yay. Cool. Okay. Any item 9, board comments?
I just had an inquiry. Al, you probably be the one to answer this. Any update on the CARPD conference in June?
Funny you ask. The conference is still scheduled to take place in June. Registration is open now as we speak. You can go online and do it that way or otherwise. Coincidentally, the CARPD Board of Directors is going to have a Zoom meeting on March 17th. And I'm sure that'll be one of the many topics we'll wade into on that particular Zoom meeting. And I'll be happy to update you at our April board meeting. So stay tuned, everyone.
And so Dan, should certain board members put that on our calendar?
I would suggest so. I know that Colleen does have the form. I think last year we all signed or registered kind of one block. So that would be good. I think that, it really depends on where people are as far as the COVID restrictions and vaccinations go. So it'd be interesting as it looks like things are accelerating a little bit more. They're great events. I've always learned a lot from them and great opportunities to connect. In fact, the Conejo connection there came from, us having a relationship with another district manager down there. So that was real instrumental at the beginning of the meeting when we talked about that patch example. So I really highly recommend them, but it's going to be up to each board member, their risk tolerance, and certainly what CARPD wants to do. But
Also,
I would keep the dates marked out.
Yeah, you know the dates, everyone, and then bear in mind the conference is to be in Monterey. So we want to just keep track of the COVID status as far as Monterey County is concerned. Everybody should know that we just slipped into the red tier here in Butte County, and I think things are going to progress wonderfully over the next few months if the vaccine distribution continues on its course. So think positive, everyone.
Yep.
I said, Dan, if we stay in the red tier, are we going to have an in-person meeting next month?
Yeah, I was going to suggest that if we're at that tier, we'll probably do a hybrid again, like we did before this latest hiatus here that we had. So it would be board members in person or option of in person, and then available by Zoom for members of the public to participate. I hope that once we drop down to other tiers, it certainly becomes a lot easier to open things up. But, you know, I think one thing, for better or worse, Zoom is with us. And I think we have worked out some bugs as far as being able to transmit it to the public and that may not be able to join us in person anyway. So, you know, I guess long-term, there's probably some small benefits to what we've endured over the last few months.
I was going to say, Steve, the best sentence on this whole agenda of all these pieces of paper is adjourn to the next regular meeting on April 14th at 6 p.m. in Conference Room B at Terry Ash Recreation Center.
There.
Well, Madam Chair, you're not officially adjourning at this point,
No.
are you?
No.
You're asking for board comments, are you not?
Yes, I was. I did. I was just commenting on that sentence because Steve brought up the next meeting. Are there more board comments?
I have one comment. It's kind of on the lines of a potential request. I don't know if the rest of the board or staff will concur with this. Some time ago, we were working on a strategic plan for a PRPD, as you all recall. I know that's a big job. And I know that we eventually got to a point where a draft plan was created, and that was sent out to all board members for your input. And hopefully board members did respond to staff on that. I'd like to ask the board and the staff to think about, not in the too distant future, maybe not necessarily bringing the entire strategic plan for formal discussion and possible adoption, but just take one aspect of that plan, a minor aspect, but it's an important one. I'd like to see us come back with a suggested adoption of a mission statement once and for all, an updated mission statement for PRPD, so that we can finally get that in place and make that part of our ongoing logo and face interaction with everyone here on the Ridge and in the district, if that's not too much to ask. I think we had some tentative wording that we'd worked out during that strategic workshop that we did way back a couple of years ago, if you recall.
Yeah, I give a little bit of update. We did receive some suggestions, and we just haven't had a chance to work through that document again. So
I didn't think
the
you
intention
had.
is to bring it back.
Yeah, I'm just thinking just the mission statement only, maybe at this point in time.
Well, and I think that because so much time had passed too, one of the suggestions we had too was to bring back whatever materials we have to, I think it was Personnel Committee that had seen that first. So bring it back to the Personnel Committee, and that certainly would be part of that, Al. So I think that's something we could accommodate when that returns.
Yep. Yeah, and because that mission statement was pre-fire, we might have some embellishment in the statement or a few tweaks of the words to sort of update it a little bit. I mean, it's not that it's not updated, but you know, there might just be a little tweak here and there we want to make in it. So.
Yeah, perhaps. I just remember that we had reached a point where we really kept it short and simple and to the point. And I really, this is only one member of this board speaking, but I really believe in that philosophy for us, and to just make that part of our,
I
don't know, just a suggestion.
If it was adopted, the mission statement was adopted, it could be used on it would be another marketing.
Right, exactly.
So that everybody would have the same wording, and so just that section, that's a good idea. And I know that I'm pretty sure the staff will come up with a way to fit that in your busy, amazing schedule that you guys all do such a good job at juggling all the balls that you're given.
Yeah, I don't want to burden the staff much more, but I just, that's why I just said just that one aspect of the plan only, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, one last comment. About a month ago at this time, staff was telling us how exciting everybody it was to solicit suggestions for names for the 2 new vehicles that we got. And I'm wondering, what's the status of that, folks? Did you finalize something that you want to share with the board this evening? Sure didn't see it in the packet. So where are we on this?
Still gathering input.
Are you taking, I know you didn't advertise that you were taking other suggestions than the list that you had, but if people give them to you, are you adding them to the list?
Sure. as far as the priority list, it's fallen somewhere down around get an activity guide out. Like
Yeah. Yep.
it's
Oh, I
down
see.
there a little ways.
Okay.
Yep.
That helps.
Why, Al, do you have something that you'd
No,
like
no,
to
no,
put on the list?
I was just so enthralled with all the enthusiasm that you shared with us a month ago. I just thought you would have reached a point of conclusion by now and you'd be happy to share it with us. That's all.
Stay tuned.
I think it's really, yeah, I think it's really cool how what I'm hearing from staff is that you're getting ready for when we don't have to worry about COVID anymore. And it's nice that you're gearing up for that now instead of waiting till, oh my gosh, we don't have any tiers. Now what are we going to do? You know? And so I just appreciate the staff for working in that direction and anticipating that that is going to happen. And when it happens, PRPD is going to be ready for it. So I appreciate all of you for heading in that direction and the good job that you're doing and all the balls that you are keeping juggled in the air. Because every time I talk to somebody, I go, oh my God, how can you do one more thing? So it's going wonderful from where I sit. So anything else? All right, 8:25. We're gonna adjourn to Terriash Conference Center Room B on April 14th. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. Very, very jam-packed. Way to keep it moving, Mary. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.